Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Buyer Insights Intelligence webinar series. Our next session is titled Developing Smart Content, How Interactive Content Helps Identify Buyer Pain Points and Paths for Continuing the Conversation. That's a bit of a mouthful. I'm Sal Osorio, publisher of the Management Report, and I'll be your moderator for today's presentation. For those of you who may be new to the Management Report, here's a quick overview. We are an online media company. We publish daily news, a weekly email newsletter, special reports, original research, and a rich menu of additional resources. If you haven't done so already, please join more than our 50,000 subscribers to our weekly newsletter by going to themanagementreport.com. In addition to the Management Report, we also host the annual B2B Marketing Exchange, which is held February 25th through the 27th in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's a great event for B2B marketers like yourselves, opportunity to meet and network with today's leading companies. For more information and for agenda updates, please visit B2B Marketing Exchange. B2B Marketing.exchange. We're also hosting a special sweepstakes throughout this week-long series where attendees can win free tickets to our annual B2B Marketing Exchange, Starbucks gift cards, and a $500 Expedia gift card. If you register for a BII webinar, you'll automatically be entered for a chance to win. And if you attend any sessions live, which you're doing today, you'll receive a second entry. We'll be giving away one Starbucks gift card per session, one B2BMX free pass per day, and the grand prize of $500 Expedia gift card for the series. So please make sure to stay tuned all week long. Obviously, for today's presentation, we're using the On24 platform. And during the presentation, you can all access information you need from the platform toolbar. Encourage all attendees to get social with us during and after today's presentation. Also, please follow along and share your thoughts and feedback on Twitter using the hashtag BII18. You can see that you can tweet directly from the Q&A, the widget right here in the On24 platform. We also encourage you, obviously, to ask questions. Try to keep it as interactive as possible. And to do so, just simply click on the Q&A widget at the top right-hand corner, and you should be all set. Today's presentation is slated to run 25 to 30 minutes with about 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. You can obviously submit your questions at any time, and we'll keep them posted or set aside for the end. And for those of you who are wondering, yes, today's presentation is being recorded, and all attendees will receive an archive link to the presentation to go back, share with your colleagues and your friends, and maybe even family. We also encourage you to let us know how we're doing. In an effort to continue to improve our webinar series, there's a brief survey that will be launched automatically at the end. And for those of you who just can't wait, you can also pull up and complete the survey at any time by clicking on the survey icon at the bottom of your screen. Well, without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce our featured speakers from our good friends at Content for Demand. Dana Harder, she's the VP of Strategy, and Jessica Baum, who's Director of Product Marketing and Channel. So ladies, take it away.
Thanks, Sal. Today we're going to be talking about smart content and how you can leverage interactive tools and features to capture critical insights into your buyers. We will discuss how to use the information to develop business insights, way to better construct personalized conversations with your buyers, and how this information can be applied to your content strategy to keep messages relevant and avoid dead-end content paths while continuing your conversation with your buyers. We all know that the B2B landscape is dynamic. As we develop our content strategy and individual content pieces, we must strike a balance between both the business and buyer perspective. It's a juggling act between personas, complex buying groups, and buying scenarios. Knowing we have the pressure to support sales and revenue, nurture buyers through the sales process, create impact across the marketing funnel, our content has to perform. It must create impact, and it must provide value. If that's not hard enough, we also have a plethora of factors to consider when we step in the shoes of our buyers. We don't always know who we're speaking to. Sometimes you have champions, researchers, decision makers. The Internet of Things provides information to their fingertips so that these buyers can access all sorts of information to answer any questions they may have. They can access reviews, they can access products, campaigns, company comparisons, pricing structures. In reality, the average buyer is quite far down the purchase path before they even engage with our sales team. So taking all of that into consideration, we must ask ourselves, how can we be developing better content to achieve our business goals? So with that in mind, we usually come to passive content. Unfortunately, for most of us, this doesn't always create an environment where we can have a two-way conversation. Passive content is standard content that we load with data, images, and text. It can be white papers, infographics, research reports. It's the content we're adding into our resource centers, nurture campaigns, and syndication programs. We're using it to create data sheets, case studies, brochures, and we hope that it engages our buyers because we're talking to their pain points, and then we hope that in turn sparks consideration with the reader. In reality, this is just a two-dimensional approach with single engagement experiences. It often leads to dead-end conversations in our buyer's journey, one-way conversations, and really offers marketers limited insight into their performance. Passive content is all about us speaking, but not necessarily listening and really engaging with our buyers. So I want us to ask ourselves, what if our content could be doing more for us? With advancements in technology, features, and capabilities, we as marketers are always looking for ways to automate and create efficiencies. We want to work smarter, not harder. Content's no exception to this rule. If we're putting resources and budget behind building content to tell our story, then we want to make sure we're doing it in a way that garners the best results. Our content should be working harder for us. And that's why smart content is a great resource for this. Unlike passive content, it opens the door for a two-way conversation. It enables us to capture feedback, take control of the buyer's journey, and prescribe content where and when it's needed. We can use tools like quizzes, surveys, and ROI calculators to better communicate our message to the buyers, while providing opportunities to capture feedback and build an overall stronger engagement experience. Smart content offers a variety of advanced features that you can't get with passive content. Things like advanced reporting, SEO capabilities, audience insights, and dynamic and easy ways to navigate. As you can see, smart content's a great way to really step up your content marketing game by obtaining better insights and delivering stronger engagement experiences. So with that said, I'm going to hand things over to Dana, who's going to talk about best practices and tips for creating smart content.
Thanks, Jess. Hi, everyone. Super excited to be with you here on this Friday afternoon. I'm sure everybody is ready to be done for the day, but I'm going to go through some best practices and tips quickly and hopefully give you some really cool ideas and leave you here with some cool samples that will inspire you as you go into your weekend. All right. So our first tip and best practice today is it begins and ends with the audience. And I think this is really important. And if you've sat in any of our webinars, you know that we're really big on understanding our buyers and our personas. If your content isn't aligning with them, we're all wasting our time. This is really important when we get to smart content, because not only are we going to use our personas and our audience and what we know about them to develop smart content, we're going to hopefully gather some insights and information that's also going to help us put it back into our content and put it back into our personas to better help them evolve. So one thing to remember, personas are dynamic. They evolve. This is not something we create and we paste on our board and we never come back to them. We're going to continually improve upon them with the information we learn. And we're going to talk a little bit about some samples and understanding our buyers. So this first tip really begins with who are our buyers, and let's make sure we're creating content that speaks to them. I have some great samples here I'm going to show you, and I'm going to attempt to do a screen share on top of this. So bear with me and hopefully this all works. Okay, so the first sample I have today is a day in the life content. These are great persona-focused pieces of content that really speak to our buyers and our audience. So when we talk about what's a really cool piece or how do I speak to my buyer, you know, putting our shoes or ourselves in a day in their lives and helping other people see what somebody might look like is really effective way piece of content. This happens to be an interactive piece, and we're going to talk a lot about interactive content in a moment. But taking just a look at, how we go through the journey here with Allison as she goes through her day and how we might be able to help her out. Another sample of this goes through Anya's day. She's the director of communications for a startup, and this happens to be for a meeting platform, and she works remote. So how am I going to use this tool throughout my day? These pieces are really effective in that it really drives home a message that speaks to our buyer. We're talking about the stage or page of the piece of content. So when we talk about smart content, making sure that it really hits home to our buyers' pain points is number one. All right. Tip 2 is interactive. This is important as we talk through content. And if you've heard our webinars before, we often talk about interactive is something we want to try, we want to experiment with. And what we're going to talk to you about today is that there's different levels of interactive. So when we talk go interactive with your content or go smart with your content, this doesn't necessarily mean it's full-fledged interactive like the assets I just showed you. There's different levels, and I'm going to show you samples of them as we talk through this. And what Jess and I are going to encourage you throughout this presentation is to think about ways to make your content more dynamic. Think about ways to gather feedback and intel in there. And what's going to happen is you're going to see interactive is going to become one of those ways that really helps us do those things. But I want to give you some in-between steps and different ways to think about it so that you don't feel that all content needs to go interactive right away. What we should be looking for is baby steps and ways to get our content to go slowly and as we go through our process. So level 1 is what we would call, it can still be a flat design. It has limited interactivity. So it might have a click to tweet, a CTA, or links related to the assets. Level 2 can be a little more interactive and dynamic. We might start to see some animation pop in here. It's going to be very mobile optimized as we start to get into that. Level 3 is what we would call a truly customized interactive experience. It can be built in a custom HTML5. It could be built in a tool like Saros or Snap App or Ion Interactive. It's going to be mobile optimized. It's going to have robust metrics, and it should be highly interactive. And level 4 is going to have a lot of those similar characteristics, but it's going to take it a step further and provide our participants with a self-navigated journey. It's going to feel more conversational. It might be a quiz or an assessment. And we're going to take a look at all of those samples as we go through here. Sorry, guys, my screen share is going a little slow. All right. So the first asset I'm going to show you, this is a really good example of a level 1 piece of content. This is actually PDF. So this is not interactive in the traditional sense of the word. But what's interesting about it as we go through it is there's embedded links that allow me to go to other assets. So these, if I click on them, go to a landing page where there's a video and an expanded case study. This is what we call a case study portfolio. So it's a roundup of older case studies that we've refreshed and brought new life into. But what I more want everyone to focus on is this idea that a PDF doesn't have to be static anymore. It doesn't have to be passive. I can have CTAs in this content that makes it feel interactive. So this idea that, I think we get scared when we hear interactive, think about ways to integrate activity into your everyday PDFs. Let's make them smarter. Let's make them work for us and provide a better opportunity for our readers. All right, so this is also what I would kind of consider that first level of interactive content. This happens to be in a platform called Uberflip. So this is Flipbook-like. The reason I kind of put this at the base level right now is it's still, we've designed these actually to a PDF and put them in there, and it allows me to provide an interactive experience and include different clicks. Here's a click to tweet button. I've got a pre-populated tweet. It's going to take me back to that landing page. So it's got clicks and opportunities for a more robust experience. Here's another piece of content that it allows me to download. Here's a clip from a webinar. If I play it, it's actually an audio clip. So again, first layer of interactivity, how can I just provide my users a chance to click and see or do or experience other things? It can be a PDF. It could start to move to a platform or HTML5 experience, but it doesn't have to. Our level two pieces of content are actually that next layer that's going to start to we'll start to see some animation creep in here. We're going to see some mobile optimization. This piece that I'm showing is what we call a listicle. This is built in HTML5. And if we look through it, we're seeing that there's some really cool animation that's happening. It leads us down a journey and an experience as we go through here. It's meant to be quick hitting. We've got some stats. I can go over the bars and I can see the stats here. So it's got that level of interactivity. And I've got a really strong CTA down here. I can get in here, I can download the full report, and there it is. On another level, this is a platform called Seros, which we use. And this one doesn't have tons of interactive links, but it definitely has a really strong animation that pulls us through. So it feels flipbook-like in nature, it tells a story, and it makes me feel like I am part of it. Both of these are mobile optimized, so it's going to allow me to have some really strong metrics in terms of how people are consuming my content, which is something we just don't get with a standard PDF. All right, as we move into level 3, this is what I would call a pretty robust interactive experience. The one that I have up is actually from our friends here at Demand Gen Report. And as we take a look through it, you're going to see that this is built in HTML5, but there's lots of ways for me to interact with this content. It's a little more robust in nature in terms of length of copy. But I can go through here, and there's click to tweet buttons, so I can engage, I can share this content. I can click through these and see the different stats. Got content here. I have something that we would call a carousel here. I can see the additional content as we go through it. I can read it right now and go to it. So this provides lots of opportunities for me to interact and get different call to actions throughout the way. And all of this is being tracked on the back end. So I can see there's a little quiz built right in here. I can take the quiz. I've got some data I'm collecting there. Another different click-throughs here. They pop out. And do's and don'ts in a checklist. So again, just a really robust piece when we get in the interactivity. And when we talk about measurement in a minute, you're going to see that this just lends itself to a whole bunch of measurement metrics that are going to be really useful as we talk about how we create more relevant content. So the last stage I'm going to talk about is what we would call that level 4, just really interactive conversation. It's one-on-one. It's meant to be, an experience for me, and I'm going to navigate or take the experience myself. This is a quiz that we did for a client of ours, and as you go through it, I'm answering the questions, and it's going to give me an output at the end that gives me a choice or give me based on how I answer the questions, you belong in this bucket. Now that's great, right? So it's give me a personalized output that says, based on your responses, you're here. On the back end, we're collecting all of this data, and this data is really important to understanding this persona and this buyer. So just thinking about ways quizzes and assessments can do that. Another one here, this one is the road to mobile mastery. So I can take this journey and answer the questions. I can see the navigation bar at the bottom here, so I know how many questions are coming up. So I go through here and it gives me my score, right? My mobile mastery is 80%. I can contact it here. I can see my results for each category. I can start over. So again, just thinking of ways that I can provide this one-on-one conversations, make it feel personalized to me, and help to gather data that's going to help us down the road. All right. So switching back to our slides. So as we talk about interactive, that's really the different ways that we can add interactivity in our content, remembering that it can start with as basic as the PDF. All right. So step 3 is all about getting personal. How do we create personalized content in hubs? There's a lot of talk around account-based marketing. And yes, that's important for personal experience, but personalization can extend any part of our content strategy. So don't think that it just has to be an ABM talk or an ABM strategy piece. So how can we create personalized content? How can we have personalized hubs, personalized microsites? Can we map personalized journeys so your prospects can binge on content designed just for them? Can I have personalized CTAs? So just thinking about any which way that we can go personal. So there's a few really cool things that I want to show here. So one, we have some fantastic partners that we work with. I'm sure y'all are familiar with them, but I wanted to share some. So Vidyard has these great ways to personalize videos. Personalized video, it's a really cool experience. So we could take it to a point where we're sending out an email, and at the end of the day, all of those videos go out and they say, hey, Dana, hey, Jess, hey, Sal. And that video is personalized to them. So that's at a grand scale, and they can ramp that up pretty large. So talk about a personalized video. There's also this really cool thing just for if we want to talk sales enablement for a minute. So let's say that your salespeople want to have a personalized conversation, and Vidyard has some great samples on their site to show you this. But our salespeople have been testing this out internally, is making a personalized video for that prospect or that person I'm trying to reach, or I met you at a show, and doing a quick little video and then sending it out to our prospect. So this is dynamic content. This is smart content. This is a way for me to interact with you and give somebody a personalized experience. And it literally takes a minute to create one of these videos and send them out. So just thinking about ways that we can personalize. And then just showing, Uberflip has some great ways to personalize content as well, too. If you're familiar with them, we've been experimenting with their sales streams and personalized hubs and experience. So let me click over and show you a sample of this. So I just quickly made this up, but basically it allowed me, let's say I had just talked to Ryan. Ryan was my prospect, or let's say that I'm creating a very targeted campaign. I can create this little hub with my samples that I want to show people, or the content I want to show them, within this personalized hub. And so if we speak, this can be done at a grander scale for campaigns, but it also can be done on this one-on-one conversation. So think ways that your salespeople or marketing people can reach out one-on-one. I can literally make these for every prospect that I talk to. And really quickly, the sample is already in there, so it's not a lot of work. It took me 20 seconds to make this and just grab the content that I wanted to throw in there. So thinking about different ways that we can do personalization. The other thing that, if you guys are familiar with Path Factory, who just rebranded their name, they used to be called Lookbook, they are doing these incredible personalized content journeys. And it's hard to see because I know this is grayed out a little bit, but when you look at it, I can send somebody to a hub and it's got this Netflix binging type of feel to it when I get there, that I'm on this piece of content that's personalized for me. It can say my name, it could be dedicated to a campaign, but it's going to lead me down a path now of the content I want to see. So let's take it beyond just personalized content. Let's talk about what's a journey I want someone to take, and can I lead them down a path that's going to score them up really quickly? And Path Factory has some amazing stats that support that if I can get someone engaged and the journey is designed for them, you can keep them engaged for, I believe the stat was close to 15 minutes, which is huge in our world as marketers. So if you haven't taken a look at this is something I highly recommend everybody checks out in terms of personalized content journeys. And then the metrics that are behind this are pretty amazing. All right, so let's talk about CTAs beyond the content offer. CTAs are so important in terms of how we're we're making smart content these days, and CTAs can be embedded within the content. They can be on our landing pages, and can I expand that landing pages? So think about ways, even just taking someone to a landing page, and yes, I want them to download my piece of content, but what are some of the other CTAs that are going to help me guarantee they're actually going to download the content? Video, we found, is a great way on a landing page. I can make a personalized video of the content, or just a short video clip to get them to download the content. We have a lot of clients who will say, I have a lot of drop off when I get to a landing page, and yes, I need to gate the content because it's this robust piece. So what other CTAs can I build around it that's going to ensure that they ensure us that they take the content? So be creative when we think about CTAs. Make it easy to share and learn something from the engagement. What can we do in terms of, adding other content that they can do, like those click to tweet buttons I just showed? Is there a way to, add those in so they share content with other people? Are there ways to offer other content? And you don't have to have this tool to do that. So just to give you a quick sample, this is a piece that we did, and we used Saros for, and it was a recap of a conference. So I was actually from the B2B Marketing Exchange. And so we go through this piece, and it goes through that. And at the end, I've teed up a few other resources that I believe are related to some of the tips we just shared. And then there's also this link that I can click to get more tips. So what I'm hoping to do here, right, is keep this experience going just by offering more content within my PDF or my interactive content. So think of ways, again, to make this interactive or make this smart or add these additional CTAs, I should say, without not necessarily needing 500 other tools or ways to do it. It's about thinking about, how do I keep the conversation going with my CTAs in all aspects of my content marketing strategy? All right, so let's talk about measurement. This is probably one of the best things or most important reasons why we start moving from passive content to smart content. I can measure in a way that I cannot measure in a PDF. So yes, I talked about that at level 1, we're just starting to get interactive, and that's a great way to start. But ultimately, we want to move to smart content so that we can have these metrics and insights that we would not have in a static PDF. And at level 1, we're still in a static PDF. I can measure clicks by people who went to my website if I'm taking them to links. But outside of that, I'm pretty restricted in terms of what I can see. However, when I get into interactive content, level 2, 3, and 4, I start to see some really cool things that I've never seen before. So we all know I download a PDF, it goes into somebody's download folder, and we hope that they go back in. And if they did and they read it, that's fantastic. That's why we created the content. The problem is I have no idea if they did that. So when we move to interactive content in some of these platforms, and even stuff we build in HTML5, we start to see metrics like average time spent on page, how many unique visits I have, if people zoomed in on a certain area, if they clicked on my tweets, if they clicked on my other CTAs, if they watched the video and how much time they spent on the video that was embedded in my asset. I start to see how many people viewed it from desktops, smartphones, tablets. So I start to know where my audience is living, where are they coming from, how are they viewing my content. If someone goes into one of my ebooks and they all drop off of page 3 or 4, there's a good chance my content's too long. I need to take a look at those insights so I can make better content for them. If my users are all coming in a mobile, that's really important. How do I want to create my content for a mobile experience first? These people aren't even looking at it at a desktop. So these are going to impact your personas. They're going to impact what we know about your buyers, and you're going to make your next set of content even better. So think about ways that this measurement could change the way that you do marketing in general as you go through content. All right. Our last best practice, apply the learnings and create smarter content. So this is great. We've all got this content. How do we make it smarter? We can start at the bottom. We can make it start, with PDFs, give us CTAs, give us links, make it personal, all these wonderful things. I can look for ways within that content to collect data, like those quizzes and assessments we've shown, and then we can use it to update our personas. What do we think we know about our buyers and their buyer preferences? And then let's use that data to better personalize the content experience. So a good example here, we worked with a client to create a persona, and we did some research on it. It was great. We created a quiz as part of that journey for this content campaign. And we took that data and then we're able to put it back into the personas and make that next set of content even stronger. So it's at the beginning, when we said our personas are not static, they live on a wall, we forget about them. What do I learn from every campaign I run that can go back to my personas? And then when I go to create the next asset or the next format, I'm going, okay, so this piece didn't work so good. Or we said, hey, our buyers aren't on mobile as much as we think they are. So maybe we're spending a lot of time worrying about mobilized content. Maybe they really still like robust, long content. So I'm going to really focus there. Use those insights to create better content. All right. So that is our tips and best practices for the day. I'm going to turn it back to Sal. I believe we have some Q&A coming up.
Thanks a lot, Dana and Jessica. Great presentation from both of you. Great insights, great tips. I appreciate the samples as well. And even fighting through some of the little glitches, which is pretty impressive. So thank you. We did actually have quite a few questions come in. Again, encourage folks to continue to send along those questions. We'll get to as many as we can. Again, we're trying to be cognizant of the time, so we have a few up ready to go. Again, before I get to those, it wouldn't be a webinar series if I didn't mention our survey. So please do take the time afterwards to take the survey. It'll pop up right after, or again, if you can't wait, click on the button below to launch it. So. All right, let's get started with the questions. The first one comes from Bryce, and I guess it's for Jessica because you talked about passive content. He asked, is there a time when passive content is still acceptable?
Thanks, Al. I would say no. I think the goal is to make sure we shift to developing as much smart content as we can. The reason being is that all smart content doesn't necessarily need to be interactive. You can add links to PDFs and other related content like Dana showed you to kind of keep that journey going. We also want to make sure that we keep strong CTAs so that way we're increasing the engagement level with our audience.
That makes sense. Great. All right, the next one is from Lisa. And I guess this is for you, Dana. Can we make our existing content interactive or smart?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, Lisa. I think that looking for ways, we're big proponents of repurposing or reversioning content. So I don't believe you should ever start over. A good exercise would be is, if you've done a content audit and you're getting ready to do a campaign, is before you launch that campaign, take a look at it and go, okay, so this is the content what I want to use. Maybe you don't have an interactive tool or wait a minute, make it interactive right away. So just start out by going, what can I do within these PDFs to make them stronger? Can I add some links? Can I add some click-throughs? Things like that. And if you do have the means for HTML5, or if you have any of these incredible, interactive platforms that are out there these days, take a look and figure out, how do I repurpose them for those assets and get them in there? Uber Flips is so basic on their flipbook side, you literally can take that PDF and upload it in there. So that's a really easy solution, all the way to things like Saros, where we can go ahead and, just reimagine that experience interactive. So the copy doesn't need to change, but maybe I just design it slightly different and get it in there and provide that interactivity in the level. So lots of ways to do it, but I highly encourage everybody to start with what they have already.
Right. No reason to actually rip and replace. You actually have the foundation of a lot of these platforms or these assets, and you can start from there. So makes sense. Great. Okay, the next one is from Eric. Again, this one probably back to you, Dana. How do I decide what levels of interactivity I should put into my assets? So I guess you talked about the different levels. It was like Dante's Inferno. So what levels should he put into his assets?
So it's a good question. And I think part of it's going to depend on the tools you have available to you and your team and your abilities. And then if you have a good variety of tools available to you, what I say is we've got to also look at what our buyers are using, what they like, and what is going to tell the story we have to do. So if you sat through some of our webinars where I'm all about laying a strong foundation, knowing our buyer personas, doing the messaging, and then making sure that your content is aligned with the messaging that goes back to your buyers. So understanding the messages I need to tell in my content, and then figuring out which interactive components are going to help you tell that story the best. So I think we're all restrained by our in-house capabilities often still. So you have to figure out that first. But if you have a good array of options up to you, make sure that you're not adding interactivity just for interactivity's sake, right? It's got to be meaningful engagements with our buyers, and it needs to align to your messaging and what we know about our buyers.
Right. Again, I guess that constant focus on the buyer. So knowing your buyer and knowing that, again, what he or she is going to be looking for works for them.
Absolutely.
Great. All right. I think we have time for one more. This one's from Alec. What do we, this is for Jessica, we could take this one. What do we do with the feedback we collect across the smart content? So you got the data. What are we going to do with it?
Great question. So you can use the feedback to update your personas like Dana had shown you. Provide feedback to your counterparts in product and engineering. A lot of organizations have a huge gap between demand gen, content marketing, as well as the product marketing. So a lot of folks in product marketing and engineering are going to look for executing feedback groups, user groups, a lot of things to facilitate product feedback. And if their team in the demand gen side and the content marketing side is already getting some of that feedback, that is just absolutely fantastic, and that's a great way to really bridge those partnerships within the organization and really provide a lot of that useful feedback back to the team that's really kind of dug deep into the ground into developing a stronger unified product. Also, you can use the feedback to draw better alignment, right, between your products and your buyers as you develop your next piece of content. You can even iterate content, right? So nothing is stale and stagnant. If, like Dana said, if you put all this time and investment into, let's just say, a G-book or an e-book, and then you notice that everybody's dropping off after page 3. Well, you know what? Do some analysis, start playing around, kind of test it, reiterate it, and then put it back out there. You don't have to wait till that next piece of content, right? You can be iterating as you go.
That's a really good point. So you can actually, using the data as you go, maybe make some changes, maybe put the CTA a little bit sooner, mess with the order of things. So that's great insights. All right, I think that's all the time we have today for questions. So I do appreciate you both staying on, and again, appreciate the insights. I want to thank you again for the great session, and want to thank everyone who joined us today and throughout the past week. If you missed any of the BII 18 webcasts, you can catch them all on demand. They will be available. They'll be sent to you afterwards. We'll also be announcing our Grand Prize $500 gift card winner in just a bit. So good luck to everyone. Again, I want to thank everyone again for taking the time out today, and hope you enjoy the series, the session, and again, enjoy the rest of your day.